life in the study of Nanhua University. The first, I introduced the origin of thanatology in Europe and the United States. The origin of the thanatology in the West can be traced back to the early 20th century. A Russian biologist and bacteriologist, he named Eli Mechnikov, he was living in France at that time, and he was one of the co-winners of the 1908 the Nobel Prize in medicine. And he published a book entitled The Nature of Man in 1903. And in his book, he first proposed the concept and the term thanatology. He himself treated it as a discipline. So obviously, we look at the word thanatology, the root of the word senators. Senators is the name of the god of death in the Greek mythology. So the thanatology is defined as the study of life, of death and dying. In other words, it is the study of the phenomena, feelings, appearances, behavior, and thought, and other things related to death and dying. And the Mechnikov, he also found another discipline called the gerontology. Gerontology has already become a prominent science. Nowadays, there are some universities have the department of gerontology. And the gerontology defined as the study of the physical, physiological, and the social phenomena of individual as well as group related to old age and aging. To treat the problem nowadays in the modern society, the aging society. But we have to notice, so do not confuse gerontology with the geriatrics. Geriatrics, the former, the gerontology belongs to the field of the geriatric physiology, psychology, and sociology. Well, the gerontology belongs to the social aspect of the problem of old age, the old people and aging. While the geriatrics belong to the field of medicine and nursing. So it belongs to the field of geriatric medical and nursing care. The one is belong to the social aspect, the other is the medical aspect. So at first, gerontology, thanatology was only in name and lacked the academic connotation. So it was difficult for the academic circle in the continental Europe to regard it as a discipline, as a subject, as a academic research field. And early in 1912, Dr. Roosevelt Park, he was the professor of surgery at the University of Buffalo School of Medicine in New York State. He was the first time introduced the word and the concept of sanatology from Europe to the United States. However, the same as in Europe, its name seemed rather religious and not so scientific at that time. So it had been ignored by the society for a long time. So until the end of World War II. World War II ended because there were various social problems related to the deaths caused by the war. You know, the post-war time, many soldiers, they retired from the army. The veterans, they have many war trauma, and many of the soldiers committed suicide. So a lot of problem caused by the war. And because of the impact and the influence of the existentialism trend of the sort in the European philosophy, therefore, the word sanatology has began the tension of the European and Americans, the academic circle, and have the new vitality because of the social need, the need of the society. And the issue of death and the suicide, especially suicide in modern society, that the existentialism focused on, inspired the international suicide prevention movement after the World War II. And this trend also prompted European and American countries to begin to pay attention to the discussion and research of sanatology. Then I'm going to say something about the origin of death education in North America. North America, including United States and Canada. That's interesting. The winner of Nobel Prize for Literary in 1948, the very famous poet and a critic, the T.S. Eliot. He was the first person to advocate in 1955 that death education and the sex education are equally important and necessary. But interesting is that sex education, we compare these two. Sex education was much earlier than death education into the American school. But the death education is much, much later. Now, well, although T.S. Eliot advocated, but his idea did not attract any attention and response of the public at that time. People still were very afraid of death and afraid to talk about death. Until 1959, a professor at the University of Southern California School of Medicine, the Herman Pfeffel, he published a book, The Meaning of Death. Well, he did not write the whole book. he did contribute one paper, and he collected 19 papers and compiled into a book, The Meaning of Death. And he added it. And in this book, he combined the knowledge from medicine, philosophy, sociology, anthropology, psychology, and physiology, psychoanalysis, psychotherapy, literature, religion, art, and other academic fields to explore the death-related issue. The meaning of death. Well, it is out of print. As soon as this book came out, it immediately aroused enthusiastic response from all walks of life in the United States, thus opening up an opportunity for the North American educational community to promote the death education. And more than 10 years later, he compiled another book, The New Meaning of Death. New Meaning of Death. And then in 1969, the famous American psychiatrist and the death scholar, Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and she published her famous and international best-selling book, On Death and Dying. And with the companion book, Question and Answer on Death and Dying. And in her book, she proposed apart making the 5 stages of death and dying. The 5 stages, very famous for the first time. And it was the first time she conducted a theoretical exploration and a description of the death psychiatry and the death phenomenon. However, it should be noted that although the theory of the 5 stages of death was the beginning of the death exploration and the death awareness movement in modern society, but its theory has many fallacies and a cultural limitation because her book is based on her interview with 200 terminal ill patients in a Chicago hospital. So it has the cultural limitation. If you do the same research interview in different country, in different area, from different cultural background, the result will be different. Okay. So therefore, her theory is constantly criticized and revised by the academic circle. But still, Kubler-Ross set a historical milestone. It's the greatest contribution. So since 1960, the death education has been systematically and plannedly promoted in American university and middle school. In July 1974, the New York Times reported that there were 165 colleges and universities across the United States had offered general courses with the theme of death and dying. And according to the 1975 survey, at least 40 medical schools across the United States offer formal teaching or training courses on death education. So nowadays in Taiwan, many medical schools offer the general course for the medical student. Beside their medical training, the student have to take a semester, one semester of a general course related to the humanity side of the life and death issue. I have been studying in Temple University from 1987 to 1996. So Temple University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, had included the death and dying as a core course in general education in the undergraduate curriculum as early as 1970. So more than 50 years ago. So my late teacher, Professor Charlie Fu, had taught this course, Death and Dying, at Temple University for more than 10 years. And in 1976, the Association of Death Education and Counseling, ADEC, ADEC, was established in the United States to promote education, counseling related to death issues. So every year, there is it's an annual conference held around the USA with more than 500 to 600 experts and scholars from all over the world participating in the event. I had once participated in the conference in 2004 in the city of Charlotte, North Carolina. This Association for Death Education and Counseling. Then let us take a look of the overview of the content of North American death education curriculum. First, there is a change of definition and situational description of death. For quite a long time before, the people treat death is the ending. Death is the ending. But gradually, the understanding, the concept changed. Nowadays, the people treat death is a process, not the ending, the process. And the English word is very, very good, very interesting. It's dying. Dying is a process. Then is the facing the inevitability of death. So the German philosopher Heidegger said, man is the being toward death. Man is the being toward death. And from ancient time, people began to ask, why do we die? Why do we have to die? Why can't we live forever? Everyone want to live forever? Yes. You want to live forever? Eternal life may not be a blessing because birth, aging, illness, aging and illness is inevitable. So how can you live forever under the circumstances of aging and illness? So it's better to say goodbye to this world and return again. So the aging and the illness is the unsurmountable barrier. Then what is the meaning of death? The death is its meaning. What is the meaning of death? What's the meaning of death? Well, when we are facing this question, what we need is not to get the answer. And there is no answer. There's no definite answer to this question. We need is if we use the Zen Buddhism term, you have to introspect, retrospect again and again. So this question is like, if we borrow the Zen Buddhist term, in Chinese it's called Gong An, in Japanese it's called Koan. There's no answer, but you can get much more than answer from your in retrospection and inspection. Death attitude and death anxiety. We just mentioned the beginning of the death education in America since 1970s. And at that time, many scholars began to study, to research the death attitude and the death anxiety in the society. Ponder and examine the thought and the feeling of facing death. So at that time, many scholars, they study, for example, they study the teenager, the different age group for the college student, for the high school student, for the elementary school student, and for adult, to research their thought and the feeling of facing death. And another interesting topic is the avoidance of the language of death. I give you a very interesting example is that if you go to Hong Kong, you enter the elevator. The elevator will have the number of the floor, right? The first floor, second floor, third floor. Well, there's no fourth floor. It jump from floor 3 to floor 5. There's no floor 4. Why? Why? Because in Cantonese, 4 sound C is the sound of death. Sound of death. I remember about 20 years ago, I joined a study group founded by a hospice care group, Perth, the city Perth of West Australia. We visited a hospital, and I noticed the hospital was the room number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Well, there were no room 13. No. There is 14A, 14B, 14C, 14. There's no room number 13. Because in the Western tradition, 13 is not a good number. If you got the chance to take the EVA airplane, international line, you will notice there were no row 4, no row 4. The 6th row, 1, 2, 3, 5. Oh, that reflects the avoidance of the language of death. So there is a term called the euphemism. We use another term to replace the term death, right? And then it's the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross 5 stages of dying. The 5 stages of dying. I just mentioned Kubler-Ross. He interviewed 200 terminal ill patients in the hospital. And he analyzed their attitude, their behavior, their feeling, their reaction to their illness in a dying situation. And he formulated the 5 stages. So most terminal patients, their first reaction is denial, isolation. It can't be. When the doctor diagnosed a patient have the cancer, but the first response is denial. And then it's anger. Then it's bargain with the God. He will pray to God. If God would forgive him or her, he would do his or her best to repent and so on. And the bargain is useless, then is depression. And finally, acceptance. But Kubler-Ross, not everyone experience the 4 stages. Now, some would experience all the 4 stages, some part of it, and not in a particular order. For some religious, very deep religious person, they want to be angry. They will accept it. they will accept. So not it's not a math formula. It's very reflectable. It's very flexible. Okay. That's euthanasia and the reality issue. We just take a look of the content because we have many to say. The problem of prolonging life of terminally ill patient, the plight of terminally ill patient at vegetative people, the meaning of euthanasia was recently the issue of euthanasia is very hot in Taiwan. But I personally against euthanasia because from the Buddhist point of view, there is much better way than euthanasia. You don't have to use euthanasia. The quality of life and the quantity of life. The prolonging life is to prolong the quantity of life, but would not improve the quality of life. And another thing is much more important is the dignity, the dignity and the right of death, the need to die with dignity. For early time, people try their best to prolong the life, and later on find that will ruin the dignity of life and the dignity of death. And in modern time, because of the advancement of medical technology, so we are facing the dilemma of bioethic and medical ethic. That's why the rise of palliative care, hospice care, and the terminal care. So nowadays, the government of many countries begin to encourage the people to write down their living will and the life ending medical self-determination. Death and the children, to grow children's simple view of life and death. The adult may think the children don't know about death, but on the contrary, the children have a more natural response to death and dying. To explore children's attitude and understanding of death at different age groups. To explore the life and death experience of terminally ill children. I have personally been invited to take off the 10-year round, the children of 10-year round. They had a much more natural response, and they were not so afraid of death than adults. They can accept. They could accept their death, so they passed away very peaceful. This is the worldwide problem: is abortion, suicide, and the prevention and the treatment. The issue of abortion, the problem of suicide, the method and the measure of prevention. So now, for example, in Taiwan, every school, from the university, high school, middle school, we have the citizen and the measurement of the prevention of suicide. I think in Thailand also, in the school, it's very important. Death and the materialization of life, disease, virus and patient, war and death, genetic engineering, the clone, biological replication. To clone a whole person is too complicated. Many scientists, they dream to clone not a person, but they want to clone the different organ, heart, liver, lung, and so etc. In their dream, they want to develop a technology they could clone the organ we need. So in the future, the dream in the future, to repair the problem of human body is just like to repair a car. You can replace the part. You understand that? And the dream, that technology will make people live forever. But I don't believe it will come. It will come true. Death and ceremonial ritual. This is very important. Cultural part. Death ritual, mourning, festival, funeral, follock, wake, funeral, burial, sacrifice, worship, etc. The culture of death system. And it also relate to the funeral service. It's a business enterprise. Bereavement and grief. Bereavement, the loss of our relative, our beloved one. And the grief counseling is very important. According to the research, the bereavement, generally speaking, the bereavement, the loss of the loved one may last, averagely speaking, more than 2 years. More than 2 years. Some people would last longer and won't come out from the bereavement. So they need the grief counseling. Then the death and the afterlife, the near-death experience. Nowadays, there are many research and study of the near-death experience. And a variety of different perspectives on life after death. There is a Hebrew and a Judeo-Christian perspective, Greek perspective, and the Eastern religious perspective. For example, the concept of reincarnation. And the reincarnation already become a studying subject. A professor from a Virginia University medical school called the Ian Stevenson. You know Ian Stevenson? He studied the children's memory of past life, and he wrote a lot of books. It's very interesting. Okay, the rise of life and death study in Taiwan. This is my late teacher, Professor Charlie Fu. He's a pioneer of the modern life and death study and the planner of our Department of Life and Death Study of Nanhua University, Taiwan. Professor Charlie Fu, he introduced the sanatology from America to Taiwan, and he combined the study of life and death, and create the term life and death study. In Chinese called 生死学. And in 1993, he wrote a book, The Dignity of Death and the Dignity of Life, published in Taiwan. So he first proposed the term life and death study, 生死学. And he went one step ahead, put modern in front of it, the modern life and death study. And it revealed the research and the theoretical construction of the topic. So Professor Fu had combined the exploration of life and death and instead of a upsurge in the study of the life and death in all work of life in Taiwan. So his book also prompted some university, starting from the National Taiwan University and other universities, to offer the general education course related to life and death. This is the book. It's a historical milestone. 死亡的尊严, the dignity of death and the dignity of life. Is the later edition. Then I want to introduce you the Department of Life and Death Study of Nanhua University. It's due to Professor Charlie Chu, his creativity, conception, and planning. So we first established the master degree program of life and death study in 1997, master degree program, and was approved by the Ministry of Education. And 2 years later, in 1999, on-the-job master degree program also approved, and it began to recruit students. And so when our master program was first established, the social response from the society is very enthusiastic. So many applications from the different age group and the different academic field. So in 2011, the master degree program and the on-the-job master degree program divided into the two groups, the life and death study group and the life and death education and the counseling group. So the life and the death study group, the purpose is to train and cultivate the senior professional in the field of medical care of life and death, the funeral, adequate, and other life and death related field. And the life and death education and the counseling group is to train and cultivate the senior professionals with government license, as clinical counseling psychologists and the school counselor. So the clinical counseling psychologist, they have to take the examination, the national examination, to get the license. And some will go to the university or high school to be the counselor. And then in 2019, the doctoral program has been improved by the Ministry of Education. And from the 1923, we can recruit the overseas student. So if you are interested, you are welcome. Then the bachelor program. The bachelor program is we first established the master degree program and on the job master degree program, and then the bachelor program, bachelor degree, in the 2001. 2001 began to recruit first the batch of undergraduate students, the 50 people. And then since 2002, the master program and on-job master program and the undergraduate program, we integrate into one system. And in 2004, we added the bachelor program of extension education. And since 2010, the undergraduate program has been expanded, double class, 100 students. And from the 2011, the undergraduate program has been divided into two groups, the social work group and the funeral service group. And 2015, a practical counseling group was added. So that make a total enrollment of 150 students every year for the undergraduate, and a 4-year make 600, and plus the master program, on-the-job master program, and the doctor program, and the intention class. So it makes nearly only one Department of Life and Death will have nearly 1,000 students. So it is the largest department in Nanhua University. Then the construction of modern life and death study is the scope and content of life and death study. The scope of life and death study, the classification of life and death study, the topic and discussion in modern life and death study, and the research approaches to life and death study, and the research field related to the life and death study, and the theoretical construction of modern life and death study. The scope of life and death study is from preserving life and death to farewell to the dying and the deceased. So it covers the topic related to birth, old age, aging, illness, and death. And the classification of life and death study. The narrow sense, in the narrow sense and in the broader sense, the individual life and death study and the general life and death study, the microscopic life and death study, and the macroscopic life and death study. So according to Professor Fu, his conception, the modern life and death study he advocates can further divide into broad and narrow meaning. So in the narrow sense, can also call the individual life and death study, while in a broader sense also can be called the overall life and death study. So under the individual life and death study, 个体心理学, 个体生死学 can be further developed the micro life and death study, 微观, and above the general life and death study, the macro life and death study can also be further developed, 宏观的. So the life and death study in the narrow sense, that is individual life and death study, is to think, explore, and observe and study the individual life and death issue, the personal, faced by every sentient individual, and to provide in-depth philosophical inspiration and guidance aimed to help every individual develop a more sound and mature viewpoint on life and death, and cultivate wisdom about life and death, and establish a positive attitude toward life to demonstrate the vitality and value of life. And even in the final stage of life growth, that means to a single person, one can face and accept death with ease and peace, maintain the dignity and the quality of life and death, and finally make a perfect ending to life. They call it individual life and death study, personal. But on the other hand, in the broader sense, they call the overall life and death study, 总体. So then the issue that it focused on are holistic and comprehensive, going beyond the value orientation, self-choice, etc., that arise when an individual face his or her own issue of life and death. It goes beyond the personal level, personal perspective. Rather, it concerns issues such as birth, aging, illness, death and dying, and the various life and death events and phenomena arise in group, and in society, and are closely related to the medical, social, political, legal, economic, ethical, and cultural aspect. So the exploration and research of the above mentioned life and death issue related to the modern people and the modern society must be based on the basic theory of modern discipline. For example, philosophy, psychology, sociology, anthropology, physiology, and medical study, and so on. And combined with the research approach of the interdisciplinary integration. So we have to systematically bring together philosophy, sociology, psychology, and religious study, bioethics, psychotherapy, psychiatry, cultural anthropology, public policy, law, economic, politics, etc., as well as exploration, content, and research result in other general science, and even include culture, art, and other fields. the art, the literature, music also play a very important role in the death and the dying. So the life and death issue of all living beings not only related to the physical and the mental well-being in the personal aspect, the research of meaning, the settlement of life, recognition of the mind nature, that's borrowed from the Buddhist concept, the mind nature, and the self-awareness of life and death, and the transcendence and the conquer of life and death at the individual level, to not only relate to the life and death at the individual level, but also involve the entire social and the cultural level and the historical tradition, cultural inheritance, ethical morality, custom, adequate system, and other issue of national and civil security, as well as the practical field such as medical insurance, social welfare, politics, and economics, which are intertwined into a network, an intricate network structure. So as mentioned above, this is the huge and a project that cross field, time, and space. So it is not an academic work that can be complete by a very small number of experts and scholars in a short time. We mentioned the death education started in America since 1970, more than 50 years ago, but not very long, only not 100 years. And in Taiwan, since the publication of Professor Charlie Fu's book, 1993, it's only 30 years old. It's quite a short time. So we still have a very long way to go. So therefore, in order to comprehensively discuss the basic issue of modern life and death study, and it derives the social level issue, so we must take into account both the individual life and death study and the overall, the general life and death study. And we have to combine the resource and the professional field of government, industry, and the academia. Government is very important. The industry is very important, and the academic is like the three fruit, okay, the tripod. So in order to comprehensively improve the quality and the dignity of life and death for all people, I will share my PPT with all of you. I'll leave it to Weber Anand, so you can ask him to get the PPT. Okay. So then I don't have to read all the material. It's just for your reference. That the topic of issue of modern life and death study, the life philosophy, including, for example, life and death related to service and the product, including the feng shui research. Jianmen say feng shui, you know feng shui. Anyone know feng shui, the Chinese feng shui? Jianmen, you know? 风水怎么讲？啊？哦 ，OK， 风水 ，OK。So in our department, we offer the course 风水。for the living and the dead. Okay. So approaches of life and death study, approaches. So including philosophy, sociology, psychology, religious study, psychotherapy, education, pedagogy, anthropology, literature, history, and linguistics, cultural studies, physiology, biological science, medical science, clinical medicine, economics, jurisprudence, and art. And then it's the life and death related research field. Philosophy of death, death education, bioethics, hospice care, terminal care, grief counseling, gerontology, suicide study, suicide prevention, and medical sociology. And the death psychology, psychiatry of the dying, parapsychology. The parapsychology is interesting. Parapsychology, including the hypnosis, psychosomatic medicine, or somatic psychic medicine, psychiatry, logotherapy. The logotherapy, logotherapy. This topic is very important in our department. By the Franco, Viktor Frankl. Cultural anthropology, cultural psychology, and mythology and folk religion. Our master program began in 1997. So until now, our graduate students are more than 1,000 students, and of the master degree program graduate, 1/3 of our alumni are the doctor and a nurse. And why they chose our department, not the medical school for their master degree, because in their working area in the hospital, when they are facing the dying patient and their family member, what they have learned in medical school will no use. You understand that? When the doctor and the nurse, they are facing the dying patient and the family, what they learned, the technology and the science in the medical school, they cannot apply to that kind of situation. So they found that we offer the death psychology, death education, philosophy of death. They found it much more useful than what they learned in medical school. Okay, the feng shui research. Okay, the last part is very important. The theoretical construction of modern life and death study and the development prospect of life and death study. We published the Life and Death journal, Life and Death journal. I was the first editor. Okay, so based on Professor Fouquet's philosophy and the teaching experience and the research result of the faculty of our department over the past 26 years. So we have identified the following 5 development direction for the global Chinese culture approach to the modern life and death study. The 5 direction or 5 aspects. The first is the topic on the philosophy of life and death and the culture of life and death. The exploration of the philosophy of life based on the awareness of mind and nature. Mind and nature is including the Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism. So promote basic research on the life philosophy and the life and death philosophy, the adequate and the culture with the spirit and the characteristic of Chinese culture, especially the view of life and death and the wisdom of life and death, based on the mind-based realization of the 3 schools, including Confucianism, Buddhism, and the Taoism, as well as the academic study of the 4 traditional etiquette and custom, called the Guang Hun Shangji, crown, wedding, funeral, and sacrifice. The first 2 belong to life. The second 2 belong to death and dying. And the possible development of their modernization. The crown is crown. It's in ancient time when the teenager grow up, there will be a ceremony or ritual to give them a identity to grow up. They call it the crown ceremony. In Chinese, they call it Guanli. Guanli, ancient Chinese, the boy will wear a hat. The next is the second one is the topic of life and death care, including academic, theoretical discussion, and clinical practice, promotion of elderly care, palliative care, hospice care, grief counseling, suicide prevention, and treatment. So combining clinical research and humanistic care from various medical nursing and care institutions to establish the theory of terminal care, hospice care, and counseling based on the Chinese culture and help to transform the traditional medical concept that's based on cure. About 50 years ago, when a patient was facing his or her final state, including the medical staff and the family, they all try to their best to prolong the life, to cure to the end, right? To cure to the end. And the result is exhausted, all the organ failure. So nowadays, the concept of cure to the end is already gradually abandoned. So we want to have a new concept based on care, from cure to care, from cure care. Because the cure is to the disease, the care is to the person. That's the greatest difference. The cure, the process of measurement of cure has a limitation, but the care has no limitation. Care is focused on the person, but cure is focused on the disease. It's from cure to care. To transform the traditional medical concept that is based on cure become a new era medical concept based on care. So what the terminal your patient need is care, not cure. Then the third direction is life and death education. Life education is theoretical foundation, teaching, promotion, and the teacher training. Now, in Taiwan, there are three terms. Begin with American death education, and then life and death education. But many scholars prefer life education. You understand that? There's an argument among the three. Death education, life education, life and death education. They each of them have their own supporter. Some prefer life education. Some prefer life and death education. But when you talk about death education, you have to talk about life and death. Right? You want to talk about life education, you could not include the death. So I prefer use life and death education. So to conduct research on academic foundation and the curriculum planning for life and death education and the life education in school at all level and for all age group, covering the early childhood education, adult education, and the elderly education as the basis for teaching, promotion, and the teacher training of life and death education and the counseling. So the curriculum content of life and death education can include exploration of life and death philosophy, life and death etiquette and culture, religion and life, moral judgment and choices, gender relations and marriage, elderly care, hospice care, terminal care, grief counseling, suicide prevention, and so on. Topic related to the fourth director is related to the life and death policy, regulation, and the system. So research on public policy, regulation, system, and the legislation related to life and death issue, including research on public policy, related regulation system and legislation, such as medical and health insurance, elderly care, social welfare, funeral service, and management. For example, in America, California was the first state to approve a law called the Natural Death Act in 1976. 1976. 1976, the first to pass a law, called the Natural Death Act. This law is to protect both the doctor, the physician, the doctor and the patient, because according to the old law, the doctor have to do everything to save the life. You understand that? That was called the great suffering. And because of the law, that the patient can avoid that kind of medical intervention. So we need the law, the regulation to protect both doctor and the patient. Okay. So through the research of the policy and regulation on medical treatment, nursing, public health, health insurance, nursing care, social welfare, and so on, we will promote and the formulation of public policy and regulation regulate life and death issue, and promote the modernization, professionalization, digitalization, and the certificate of life and death related service, the service. So then the last one is the topic of life and death services and business, from the health prevention to farewell to the dying and the disease, including such on the planning, development, operation, management, and the supervision of the wedding, funeral, elderly care, funeral, and the sacrifice, various life and death related service and the business. Okay. So it is hoped that in the future, all life and death service and business with care and the dignity as the main axis can be established to enhance the level of life and death culture for people. So the above 5 development aspects of the modern life and death study cover life and death philosophy, life and death care, life and death education, life and death policy and regulation, and the life and death services, etc. Taking into account both theory and practice, and integrating resource and the professional field from industry, government, and academia to support each other, so that the overall teaching, research, and the development of life and death study form a virtuous cycle of organism. So the last, okay, after all, the essence of life and death. One may ask, what is modern life and death study all about? Can you briefly and concisely explain its connotation and spirit? Yes. Birth, aging, illness, and death are just like the 4 seasons of spring, summer, autumn, and winter, and they alternate in cycle. So they are originally the natural melody and the transformation mechanism of sentient life on Earth. So life and death are actually the 2 sides of the unity of life, which are dependent on each other. So if we can face death calmly and accept death with a positive and a healthy attitude, and at the same time reflect and observe life from the perspective of death and the life after death. So we look at life from the point of view of death and the life after death, including aging, illness, and death. Then we will have a higher level of experience and understanding of life, which will not only better demonstrate the meaning and the value of life, but also be better able to support the elderly, take care of the ill, and make peace with the dying and the deceased, so as to complete and fulfill the quality of dignity of life and the death, and not for just this life, from Buddhist point of view, including the future life. So best wishes to everyone at ease with life and death. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Most Venerable Professor Dr. Huei Kai from Nanhua University. So this occasion is open for everyone who would like to ask some questions to Venerable. If you have some questions, please show your hand. Or you can write. Okay, please.
Please, Professor, I want to take a photo during topic 1. You can repeat.
第一页，请回到第一页。
第一页
是
the first page. Okay.
No.
In Mahachulalongkorn University, we have life and death study. Today, most venerable associate professor Dr. Ajahn Ekapat, he already come, deans of Faculty of Humanities, and some students from master degree and Ph.D. student in life and death in our university also participates in our class today too. Okay. Anyone have a question, or would you like to discuss with some topic with the venerable priest? And also we have a Professor John from Arizona University also to come to participate in our class today.
Well, I think you may need some time to digest. Well, thanks to the most venerable Xinding. I think in the future, I will come to Thailand and Mahachulalongkorn University frequently in the future. So, and as I just mentioned, that the life and the study cannot be accomplished. The issue and the problem cannot be accomplished by a small group of people. It needs many people to participate in the long run. So, I leave the PPT for you to share with anyone who wanted. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I will share for them.
Okay.
We have 20 minutes before lunch. This is a very important occasion for you or for us. This is, I think, it's the first time Venerable Huei Kai from Nanhua University come to give a lecture for our students in IBSC. And you can ask in Chinese or you can ask in Thai. That's okay, no problem. Or in English, that's okay. Okay, please.
The program is really quite interesting for the students who would like to study the modern life and the study. The thing that I would like to know about this course, they have any scholarships for the students.
Okay, Venerable Huei Kai, he's here got a little bit problem, so he cannot to hear not clear. So please talk loudly. Okay.
Well, we have the scholarship for the international student. Okay.
Educations? Professor 有说可以用中文讲，可以问中文啊，中
可以啊，
文也可以
你可以用中文问。
中文也可以หรือจะพูดภาษาไทยก็ได้นะทำเป็นภาษาไทยก็ได้เดี๋ยวอาตมาแปลให้
好 ，OK，不用客气。哎，要问问题吗？没有。哦，不用客气，不用客气。OK。哦，OK。我不太好，我要讲大声一点。
您说是从2023年可以招收国际的学生？
对，
是本科课程还是说研究生？
博士班，哎，博士班，the doctor。Well, for the first 3 years, we cannot recruit the international student, but after this the third year, we can recruit the overseas student.
Okay, please loudly.
Yes, during the lectures, you mentioned about euthanasia. And dignity. In Taiwan, is euthanasia. Yes.
Yeah.
It's kind of like giving some physicians in Europe country, they ask about the assistance because some disease incurable, so it's better for you to die with dignity. So this term is like euthanasia. I think some is in your slide. I think it's correct. It provides in your slides when
euthanasia. Well, okay.
So what is your perspective between these terms and dignity? Because dying is better. It's the zero spiritual perspective.
Okay. Okay. Talking about euthanasia, it's a dilemma and the paradox of the modern medical science. If we look back to 100 years ago, at that time, would people ask for euthanasia? No. Because at that time, the medical science was not so advanced. You understand that? The ancient time, when people reach the final stage of disease, it just passed away. You understand that? Because nowadays, because of the advancement of medical science, the medical science may not cure the disease, but it can make you stay in bed for a very long time. And that situation won't happen in ancient time. You understand that? So why the people nowadays ask for euthanasia? Because they are not able to die because of the medical science. So very paradoxical. So they first people want to prolong the life, and when people found prolonging life is so suffering, and the backwards ask for shorten the life. So euthanasia is to give you a shot to make your heart stop in a few seconds, in a few minutes. You understand that? It's a medical intervention. And the process of euthanasia is just the same as the death penalty. The death penalty in early time, the death penalty, the hanging or the electricity. Nowadays, most states in America, the death penalty is to give a shot. They use three kind of medicine. The poison. That's the euthanasia. Well, euthanasia in Chinese named 安乐死, but actually it was translated by the Japanese. They used the Chinese character. 安乐 means happy, but euthanasia has no relation, has nothing to do with happy. Is easy. It is easy to die, not happy to die. But the Chinese term 安乐死 may give the people a kind of fantasy that it will make you happy to die. 安乐死, well, actually, it has nothing to do with happy. So the process, the method of euthanasia is the same as the death penalty. So I personally strong against the euthanasia, because in Buddhism, there are much better way to die, to pass away. You practice meditation, you recite Buddha's name, you concentrate your mind, and you accept the natural death, and make your mind correspond to your nature. You will pass away naturally, easily, no suffering. No suffering. There's no need to euthanasia. Okay?
So thank you very much, most valuable Professor Dr. Huei Kai, to give a very, very interesting about the topic of life and death today. So I think all of you can got many beneficial topics from Venerable give a lecture today. So on behalf of IBSC, I would like to thankful and would like to invite Dean of Humanities, most venerable Ajahn Ekapat, to give some presents for Venerable Huei Kai, Venerable most venerable Sinting, and อาจารย์Venerable Shan and Professer please Venerable อยากจะนิมนต์ท่านอาจารย์คณบดีได้มอบของที่ระลึกครับให้กับท่านอาจารย์หลวงพ่อสินติงแล้วก็อาจารย์หุยไข่ครับผมเป็นตัวแทนครับ我们准备一下那个 OK